come a little closer. Right now, before this short message ends, I want you to see the underside of the tapestry I have been weaving with the very threads you have been calling random. The role you lost, the silence from a friend, the prayer that seemed unanswered, the weight you cannot end. They are not loose strands. They are stitches. Lean in toward the loom. Take the next few minutes slowly with me. By the time we are finished here, I will show you why none of the threads you most resented in this season have been wasted. And I will set into your hand one line I once handed to a small community of believers in an empire that gave them no shelter. A line built to hush, in this very hour, the suspicion you have been carrying that the design of your life is fraying instead of forming. The threads you cannot see are the ones holding the pattern. I see you. There is a person leaning closer to a calendar that has run out of pages, trying to make sense of a season that produced too much waiting and too little explanation. A woman counts back across the last 6 months and tallies more difficult days than easy ones, and the math feels like a verdict. There's a man whose career took an unexpected turn he did not request, and he has begun to wonder if I lost track of his file. A young one watches 2 good things in a row, followed by 3 hard ones, and a quiet conclusion settles in. The loom must be broken. A widow has stopped looking for meaning inside the strange combinations of her months, because hunting for meaning has begun to feel like another labor on top of grief. Not one of those small kitchens stays hidden from me. Every accidental seeming arrangement of your season has been noticed. Each hour you stared at a strange weave and could not read it has been kept on my side of the workshop. Even a friend who eventually stopped asking how your season was going, because the answer began to repeat. Every one of those silences was logged. Your morning prayer for clarity has shrunk, not because the longing softened, but because pressing the same question into a weave that refused to explain itself began to feel like speaking into wool. Each shortened sentence reached me. None of the asks fell short of the one holding the threads. Yours is not the weariness of someone who walked away from me. Yours is the weariness of someone who kept showing up at a loom they could not read. Those 2 postures look similar from outside and are nothing alike on my side of the cloth. A quitter steps back. A weaver who cannot read the back of the work leans in closer, frowns at the chaos, and ties the next knot anyway. You have stood in the second posture for months. I have watched you. I have watched you reach for the loom with thinner hope than the prior dawn, and reach for it regardless. The reaching regardless is among the deepest forms of faith a soul can offer, and I have been honoring it from my side without a single missed minute. A weight rides under this fear that the surface does not show. A small embarrassment has been growing in some of you about how often you privately wonder whether the strange combinations of this season are evidence of my absence. A suspicion settles into the chest that the people who seem to have smoother years must be the ones I am personally weaving for, and that what you are walking through is what happens when the weaver gets distracted. A few of you have begun a quieter dread, that perhaps you understood me wrongly all along, and that the loving Father you trusted is not actually the one running the loom of your life. That is the heaviest thread of all. I am about to lift it. Exhale longer than you inhaled, just for one slow round. Short in, longer out. No pushing. Then once more, slower still. Your body absorbs more from a stretched out exhale than from any sentence about peace. Months of clipped breaths, bracing, gripping, scanning for the next strange thread before it surfaces, have trained your nervous system to assume the cloth might fall apart at any moment. A drawn-out exhale signals the body that the cloth is not in danger. It signals the ribs that the one at the loom has not stepped away from his post. A drawn-out exhale is the briefest trust prayer your body can offer, and it lands in my ear with the full weight any articulate prayer ever carries. This fear that the weave of your life is fraying did not assemble itself on its own. It crept in the first morning a parent's mood flipped without warning, and your young soul concluded that the very people you depended on were running an unpredictable loom. It deepened the year a workplace promised one direction and delivered another, and you trained your nervous system to read every new arrangement as proof that whoever was in charge was improvising at your expense. It absorbed reinforcement from teachers who framed good seasons as proof of faithfulness and difficult ones as proof of failure. And your tired heart began auditing every dark thread for the moral lesson you must have missed. It also seeped in through grief. A phone call on the wrong afternoon, a diagnosis on the wrong week, and your body, with no language for the strange combinations, began murmuring underneath. Nobody is at the loom. Not one of those teachers was me. Some loved you sincerely and were passing on the dim sketch they themselves had inherited. Others used the language of God's plan as a tool to pull obedience without offering tenderness. Whichever origin, the same falsified loom got placed in front of you, and the false loom has been making you mistrust the very weave I have been making with the real threads of your real life. Roll that false loom up. Lean it against the wall while I describe what my weaving actually looks like inside the country it comes from. At some point in your formation, an idea took root that my goodness should look like a straight road, visible from the air, every turn signposted, every difficulty rerouted around. The design arriving in one bright color you would recognize from above on day one. Someone taught you that real blessing must arrive as ease, that the right road produces no obstacles, that a life loved by heaven would not contain dark threads at all. Someone taught you that if a cloth is hard to read, the weaver must have lost the design. My weaving has never operated that way. It does not operate that way now. A picture of my goodness lodged inside your chest right now. Easy circumstance, smooth roads, all wins in a row, was drawn by pencils that were never mine. A few of those pencils were held by sincere teachers who had simply never crossed a long season themselves. Other pencils drew the easy cloth on purpose, because a smooth cloth theology is easier to sell than a real one. Both kinds left the same false sketch inside your interior, and the sketch has been arguing for months that your strange thread season is a verdict rather than a corridor. Set it face down for now. Let me describe what a real tapestry actually looks like from the side a weaver sees. A tapestry under my hand contains every color the design requires, including the dark ones. Bright threads alone produce decoration. A real cloth that lasts the centuries needs the dark threads, the rough threads, the ones the eye would never have chosen, the strands of waiting, of loss, of confusion. Because the dark threads are what give the bright ones their depth. A weave without contrast is not a design. It is a wash of color. What I am making with your life is not a wash. It is a real composition. And the composition requires the very threads you have been calling random. You have been studying the underside. From where you stand, the threads cross each other in ways that look chaotic. Knots, hanging ends, colors crashing into colors without explanation. The underside of any real weaving looks like that. It is supposed to. Order is not where you have been looking. Order is on the far face of the cloth where I am working. Pulling at the strange threads of this season, trying to understand each one alone, has shown you exactly what the back of a tapestry shows. Knots, loose-looking ends, surprising color combinations. That is the working face, The pattern face is turned toward me. Press the back of your shoulders gently into whatever you are sitting against. Just that. Roll them back, slowly, one full circle. Then release. Notice how the support is already there, holding more of your weight than you had realized. That same kind of holding is happening on the other side of the loom, running through your season. The design does not require your supervision to come together. It only requires you to keep showing up and tying the next knot when the next thread is handed to you. One line I want to place into your hand right here. Receive it the way it first arrived, in the ears it was sent to. Not as a tidy slogan on a brochure, but as wet ink unrolled inside a small lamplit room by tired believers needing to learn whether the strange weave of their years was being held together by anyone at all. I had Paul set this line down for believers in a city called Rome. No political shelter covered them. Their gatherings remained illegal. Several of their own bore the cost of confessing my name. Each strange thread in their season carried a face, a name, an empty chair at the table. Paul refuses in this sentence to repeat what the easier teaching of his hour keeps selling. He will not promise that all things will feel good. He sets down something tenderer and stranger. This is what I said. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Move through it slowly. A quick pass would miss most of what is buried in these syllables. We know. Look at the first words. Not, we hope. Not, we will eventually find out. We know. The verb is steady. It is the verb of a settled fact, not of a wish. The believers in Rome did not know it because their circumstances were easy. Their circumstances were brutal. They knew it because the one who had been weaving their lives had personally told them what he was doing. The knowing was not a feeling. The knowing was a practical certainty resting on my character, not on their weak. Receive that. The knowing offered here is the kind that holds steady whether or not your current evidence looks like it should. All things. Read those two words twice. Not the nice things. Not the things that were easy to interpret. All things. Including the difficult thread. Including the bewildering combination of months you cannot make sense of. Including the loss that arrived without warning. Including the waiting that has stretched far beyond what your nerves were prepared for. Every thread is in the all. The verse does not pretend the dark threads are bright. The verse pretends nothing. It only refuses to let any single thread be wasted. All of them are inside the weaving. Work together. Listen to the verb. Not work apart. Not work in isolation. Together. The threads are being woven into one another. A position lost and a fresh conversation arriving 6 months later are not separate items in your story. They are stitches in one row. A grief that opens one chamber inside you and a friendship arriving through the opening are not coincidence. They are warp and weft. A door refusing to open one season and a different door swinging wide in a direction you never would have chosen are not unrelated events. They are working together. The cloth is being made of their crossing for good. Notice carefully what is missing here. The line does not promise for feeling good. It does not promise for circumstances that read as good from the outside. It promises for good, meaning toward a finished cloth that is genuinely good, woven by a weaver whose own character is genuinely good, in a design that will read as good once the back of the work finally turns over. Some of the goodness will be visible to you in this life, in pieces, in glimpses, in the slow unfolding of months you finally understood. Some will only be visible when the weaving is complete, and the loom is turned, and the underside you have been studying becomes the pattern side you have been trusting in the dark. For those who love God, receive that phrase gently. The line does not require perfect ones. It does not require ones who never doubted. It does not require ones whose love was uninterrupted. It asks only for those who love God. Your loving may have been tired. Your loving may have been intermittent. Your loving may have been a single thin thread of holding on when nothing else made sense. Thin loving still counts. The condition was love. The simple, ongoing posture of being turned toward me, however shakily. And that posture has been yours, even on the days you doubted it. Called according to His purpose. Hear the last clause. Not called because they deserved it. Not called because they earned it. Called according to my purpose. Meaning you are inside the design because I placed you there, on purpose, with a name I knew before you knew it. The purpose is mine. The placing is mine. The pattern is mine. Your belonging in the weaving is not contingent on your performance. It is contingent on the one who set up the loom. As I once whispered through another voice, you were knit together in a hidden place, fearfully and wonderfully made. Place that gentle promise next to the line you just received. The same hand that knit you together in a place no human eye could see is the hand currently weaving a season no human eye can fully read. The weaver of your inside is the weaver of your outside. One hand, one kind of work. Return now to the promise I made when these words began. I said I would show you why none of the threads you most resented in this season have been wasted. Here's why. Nothing on the back of a weaving travels alone. Every loose-looking thread is anchored 2 stitches over into the thread next to it, and 3 stitches over into the one after that. The composition is doing its connecting underneath, where your eye cannot inspect. The reason the strange combinations of your year have read as fraying is that you have only ever been trained to grade finished cloths, polished biographies, completed testimonies, visible victories, and you have been comparing the in-progress underside of your own life against the finished face of someone else's. That comparison was always going to read as failure. The underside is not the verdict. The underside is the workshop. Tuck this small habit into the rhythm of the days that follow. The next time you see a thread in your life that looks loose, a piece of bad news, an unexplained delay, a difficulty that seems to belong to no design at all, and you will because the back of any weaving always shows them, pause and pose one slow question. Not, why is this happening to me? That question returns more dread than answer. The new question is this: where might this stitch belong in the larger work? Just the question. Nothing more. You may not see the placement until the cloth is finished, but the placement is there. The asking itself is the practice. The asking trains the eye to read the loom from the weaver's face instead of from the worker's. There is a second movement to this little practice when you have room to add one. Lift your eyes, slowly, to wherever the light is coming from in the room around you. A lamp, a window, a softer corner, not a strain of the neck, a small lifting. Many of you have been studying the dim underside of your season for so long that your eyes have stopped remembering they are allowed to look up. That lift is itself a kind of yes. It is the body saying that the one holding the design is somewhere higher than the chaos of the knots you have been counting. Stay with the lifted gaze for the length of 3 slow breaths. Allow the shoulders to register that the pattern is being held by hands that are not your own. When your eyes return to the room in front of you, return with a softer chest, because the lifting trained the body in something the mind has not yet caught up with. Light comes from above the workshop, not from inside the tangle. One more layer, softer than the previous two. Whenever a small mercy surfaces during an ordinary day, a thread you assumed was random quietly making sense, an old loss producing an unexpected kindness, two events months apart revealing themselves as the same row of stitches all along. Refuse the urge to call it coincidence. Murmur, in whatever volume the room allows, the design is showing. That short line is a whole posture. It trains the eye to spot early glimpses of a tapestry whose full unveiling waits beyond the room you currently sit in. Most large weavings reveal themselves in slivers long before they reveal themselves in full. Gather the slivers, honor them. Each one is a preview of a finished cloth that has been forming all along. Here's something else, gently. There is a difference between waiting to understand the season and walking inside the season, already trusting it is being woven. Many of you have been postponing peace until the explanation arrives, until you can read each strange thread back into a clean story of cause and consequence. That postponing is unnecessary. Peace is not the reward for understanding. Peace is the result of trusting the one at the loom even before the cloth turns over. A weaver's child does not need to read the cloth before climbing onto the parent's lap. The child climbs because of who is holding the work, not because of what the work currently looks like. You are allowed to be the child on the lap of the weaver while the cloth is still being made. First time you try this, the inside of you will likely register nothing. 10th attempt may leave the interior just as unchanged. An eye that spent years reading the back of the cloth as proof of failure does not retrain inside one afternoon. Somewhere past the 30th attempt, an inner shift starts. Dread about the strange threads loosens its grip by an inch. Past the 50th, you catch yourself going whole stretches of hours without auditing the back for proof of my absence. Past the 100th, you glance back across the season and notice that you stopped reading it that way some weeks ago, and that the loom has been forming something the entire stretch, even when the chaos of the working face was all your eyes could see. If a line of these words has touched the tired hands of you, set the word woven down here in the comments, not as a catchphrase, but as a small marker staked beside a loom whose strange threads were never wasted. Above this video, inside the pin spot, 7 short letters sit prepared for you. One for every morning ahead in the coming week, delivered to your inbox the instant you offer a small yes. Take them. For the one who has watched a marriage produce more dark threads than bright ones across this last stretch, hear me. Marriages do not reveal their pattern across short seasons. They reveal it across decades, in the underside of years that looked, at the time, like nothing was being made. A row of difficult stitches is still a row in the weaving. Keep tying knots. The pattern is being formed in places no scan of the current month can reach. For one of you who has prayed years over a son or daughter walking far from me, whose interior currently shows nothing but loose ends, hear this also. Wanderers come home by routes no parent can map in advance. Every prayer you offered into the dark sits on the loom as a thread. That thread is not lost in space. It is being woven into a row whose composition will eventually surprise you. Keep holding the edge of the cloth from your side. The one at the loom knows where the wanderer is. For one of you carrying a body that has been giving dark threads for years, a chronic condition, a slow loss, a healing that has not arrived on the timeline you hoped for, Hear this also. Your body has its own loom, and that loom is being held. A tenderness has been forming in you across the long body season that no other root could have produced. And that tenderness is itself one of the most precious threads in the cloth. Those around you are being shaped by who you have been turning into inside the long weave. How deeply, you cannot yet measure. Their cloth has rows of your cloth running through it. Both are being held. If a prior season of strange threads disappointed you so deeply that you have been holding on to a verdict, that the loom was empty, that the weaver had walked away, that the pattern of your particular life was not really being held by anyone, hear me carefully. The loom was not empty. The weaver did not walk away. The pattern of that earlier season was being held in a place you could not inspect from the chair you were sitting in. Some of what was woven during that season has already revealed itself in the years since. Some is still on its way. The disappointment you felt was not proof of an absent weaver. It was proof of a real weave being made on a timeline larger than your nerves could accommodate. For one of you presently walking through a season of plenty, whose loom has been producing easy threads, receive this closing note. Plenty has its own quiet risk. Inside a smooth season, an air can begin to assume the weaving is happening on its own. And so, when the next dark thread eventually arrives, that air can begin to wonder whether I stepped away from the work. I did not step away. The same hand that has been holding the bright strands is the hand that will hold the dark ones the moment they come. Keep gathering the strands even during the easier year. Keep tending the weavers whose underside is rougher than yours right now. A cloth held by a hand never depends on the contents of any single row. A word also for the one of you whose mind keeps returning to a specific dark thread from years back. A betrayal, a loss, a wound someone caused you that you have never been able to fit into any sensible story. That thread is not outside the weaving. Many of the threads of greatest pain in your life have already been woven into rows that produced kindness, depth, recognition of my presence, even when the recognition came years after the wound. I am not telling you the pain was good. I am telling you the weaver did not waste it. There is a difference. Pain does not become good by being woven. Pain becomes meaningful by being placed inside a pattern that was always good. Lay the dark thread down for one breath. Let it rest in the weave alongside the others. It belongs to a row whose stitches were not chosen by you and will not be canceled by you. The placement is held. Hear the line once more, the way someone hands a true sentence back to a friend on their way out of the room. The threads you cannot see are the ones holding the pattern. Sew that line into the lining of an ordinary jacket. Speak it under your breath at a stoplight. Lay it against the soft place above the collarbone where words leave you when the kitchen is empty. That line stays true whether or not your senses confirm it in this hour. A loom does not require verification. A weaver does not require supervision. Both stay mine to hold, and mine to hold means held to the end. When an early glimpse of the design does eventually arrive, expect it to land quietly. Most of what I do beneath the surface of a tired life surfaces without trumpets. A morning when a dark thread from last year suddenly clarifies a bright one arriving in this one. An afternoon when an old loss surfaces as the doorway to a kindness you would have missed without it. A nightfall when two events you treated as unrelated turn out, on closer look, to belong to a single row of stitches. Each occurrence is the tapestry showing itself for a moment inside a normal day. Honor it. Stay with it. The composition has been here all along. You are simply starting to read what the loom has been carrying without your supervision the entire stretch. Amen. Whatever in this message reached a tired place in you, 7 short letters wait inside the pinned spot, just under this video. 1 to greet you on each sunrise of the next 7 days. Slipped into your inbox the instant a quiet yes opens the gate. Receive them. Pass this along to someone whose own season has been wearing them into despair about the design. Tap subscribe so the next word lands in your feed ahead of the old dread that the loom is empty. No woven life was meant to be carried by a soul walking it solo.